Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and Mac Lane. And it's been a big week here on the pod, Mac. We talked to Miami on Monday, and now it's time to talk about the Pitt Panthers. And Mac, before we talk about our guest, we were just talking before we got our guest on, and you were like, "Yeah, man. I mean, Pitt went 3-9," and I went, "Pitt went 3-9." Like I don't know why in my mind I wasn't thinking, like I knew that, but to think Pittsburgh went 3-9 is really baffling to me, Matt.
Yeah, same. And it just kept happening. It just kept losing.
That's how you
each
go
and every
3-9.
week almost. And I was like, wow, okay, here we are. The craziest thing to me though was that Wake Forest game. I thought that was a grand slam, automatic, bet the house. I mean, I lost people's mortgages on that. I'm sorry. And they lost.
I hope not.
I mean, that was crazy. That was a crazy, crazy game, crazy season. And, we had to talk to my guy, Jordan York, to help us break this down. Jordan is a contributor to Bleacher Report. He's on the Sick Pod Steelers and also the Yinzer Crazy Show. So this guy is Pittsburgh through and through.
He's a Yinzer.
I love this conversation. It was super fun. Very passionate guy about Pittsburgh. So we had to talk to him, chop it up. But I'm right there with you, KG. It was crazy. And I still – I just think about a couple of years ago, they just won a championship. What are you talking about? They didn't win 3 games. So he helps us break it all down. Real quick, before we get to Jordan, here's a message from our friends over at Ingles, and then we'll have the interview.
It's time to discover the convenience and time savings of contact-free pickup with Ingles Curbside. Just visit shop.ingles-markets.com or download the app. And your Ingles personal shopper gets to work with specialized training on how to select the freshest items for a pre-scheduled pickup. They'll even text you with updates. You pull up to a designated space and your personal shopper delivers your items right to your vehicle. Fresh, fast, and affordable. It's all in the bag. Ingles. Low prices. Love the savings.
Your head's a little
I can
more
sit
even.
up. Is that good?
Yeah, that's a little better.
I'm on a desktop, so
Oh, okay,
I can't
yeah.
move. It's like up. Is this fine now?
No,
Shout
that's
out
better.
to the
Yeah.
desktop.
Yeah.
Come on.
I have to have better posture.
That's not what I meant.
No.
right.
That's awesome. Here we go. Appreciate you again, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, guys, we've got Jordan York. Man, appreciate you joining us, my man, because we've got to talk about these Pitt Panthers. And listen, you and I have been connected for, it feels like a long time now.
Yeah, I was waiting for the dinner invite.
Hey, you down here or up there? Which one? Which one can you make?
Down there, whenever. It goes both ways. So whenever
That's right.
if you ever come up to Pittsburgh, I know Clemson. I don't know if that's a home or away game this year, but most definitely we'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. It's funny enough. EJ spent a little time in Pittsburgh, so he knows like all the spots, all the food spots. I guess when he was in the NFL, would make stops in Pittsburgh. And man, we had the greatest dinner. And I'm sad I can't remember just off the top of my head.
Permanis? Because that's okay.
That's
That's like the cliche answer to
Right.
go to. But I mean, I love Permanis. I mean, it's a great late night snack, but I feel like that's the one. So yeah, I'm sure it was a spot, maybe like a wing spot or something.
It was actually like an Italian joint. I think there like an art district kind of near the stadium?
Yeah, the cultural district. Yes.
Yeah, the cultural district. It was
Yes.
something right in there, like
right
pretty
downtown.
Intimate. Smaller, but cool vibes.
I'm not sure of that. Yeah,
it was good. I'm gonna find it. I'll text it to you.
Sounds
it was super good.
Sounds good.
Unfortunately, what was not good was our Pitt Panthers. And listen, it hurts me because I love Pitt and I love EJ.
Yeah.
I love Coach Narduzzi. I love all of them. But 3-9. I mean, I did not see that coming. I gave them totally the benefit of the doubt. What the heck, man? Fill us in. What happened?
Yeah, so, the expectations obviously going into any college football season, are high when you start 0-0, despite what happened the season before. We got the hometown kid, Phil Dracovic. He came. Everyone was hype. I was hype myself. Played decent at Boston College, definitely showed some spurts. I know he bounced around trying to find his place, but man, he just came in and fell flat on his face. And I think that Narduzzi, I love him to death. Sorry, Pat, if I say this, but, I just think that they kind of just sat on it and it kind of just wasted the whole season. And that's just being brutally honest. Like, there's really no other way around that. And I'm sure that they feel that way. It's kind of like Pitt is like kind of like the Steelers right now with the quarterback position. You need a good quarterback in college football. It's the foundation of your football team. Obviously, the guys up front win the game, but they just came in, and then you have 3 different quarterbacks, Yarnell going into this. It's a mess. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no other way to put it. I was trying to be nice, but it hurts after, an ACC championship and, a few years ago. And now we're 3-9. And I think I was telling you off air, they're picked 14th
Yeah.
this year. Randy Bates, defensive coordinator, love him. Love what those guys do. I know Dayon Haynes, Elliot Donald, Aaron Donald's brother up front. These guys, they have good on that side of the ball, but the offense really just didn't click.
Yeah.
I think the offense was kind of the more shocking side because I think the defense at times was fine. And I know Charlie Partridge moving on, that's a big concern. And we
Great
can get
guy too.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my dog, man. I was so
he-
sad when I saw that.
He deserves the opportunity though.
Sure,
That's
no question.
You hate to see guys go, but when you see him go to the NFL, it's like good on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Jordan, let's go big picture there for a second because you lose a guy like that, and then you think about Boston College losing Jeff Hafley to the NFL,
Yes.
getting Bill O'Brien, a guy who was just in the NFL and of course at Alabama and all that. But do you think, and you now are very involved with the Steelers, do you think that college football has a problem there with guys who maybe just are tired of the NIL, tired of the constant recruiting and don't want to deal with that anymore?
Yeah, I think the whole dynamic of college football changed. I think, I am a guy for the NIL. They're making millions of dollars, these universities. I think it's great for the kids to really do this. But you got guys like Jordan Addison who left Pitt, went to
Yeah.
USC. He's making $2 million. I mean, he's like on a rookie contract and being the man at college. I mean, hey, I would, you can't really blame, someone that young, and he's doing great things for the Vikings, had a great rookie season. You see it all the time. And I think that, I know my characteristics as a person, like I'm like, family, like, and that's what football is built on. I mean, Eric knows, and I feel like that college football lost that a little bit because it's kind of like me, and these coaches don't want to stick around because they're like, I don't know what it's going to be like, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. And they're like, hey, I'm going to try and get to the next level. I mean, really, it's baffling to me. I didn't think that it would change this fast, but it changed, and it changed fast. And I think that everyone's kind of like scurrying, like, do I want to adjust or do I just not want to deal with this? Because there's so much more. Now it's playing football, social medias. No one wants to talk about it, but it's like, we're at the mecca of everything. Social media is great because you could look and, you used to have to like meet with these guys. Now you can just, hey, send me the email with and it's a totally different game. I don't know, man. It's I covered Pitt like when I'm not old, I'm in my 30s, but this was 4 or 5 years ago. And even since then, so much has changed.
Yeah,
So
seriously. It's a totally different landscape.
It's good and bad.
It is good and bad. And I think the interesting thing too, like kind of hearing, some of these coaches and how, they're different case by case. It is what it is. Different guys, complain about different things. And it's like, look, these coaches would leave in the middle of the night. These guys had the ability to do now what the players can do. And it's like, whoa, hey, no. We can't do that. We can't do that. So it is fascinating. But it's totally a different world. It's totally a different world. One thing I actually do want to go back to, Jordan, because I thought it was fascinating the way that you said it in the quarterback position specifically, NFL and college. This applies to both. Why will we not just take a guy out for a series, say, hey, just sit out, figure it out. You got to breathe. Go sit, get another guy in. Okay, now you're ready to go. Why can't you do that? It's like it's the position that takes the most mentally. And yet we look at them like they're so soft and fragile that they cannot be touched. They you know what I'm saying? It's crazy to me.
I think, as we know, football is a game of momentum. And the second trait is confidence. And confidence in a quarterback is everything because he's the leader of your team. But at the same time, you're right. It's like, hey, like if you're having a bad day at work and your boss sees you and he's like, you know what, Eric and Jordan, go in the corner, go here's $5, go get it. Well, that's not going to get you a cup of coffee nowadays, but here's $5, go get some coffee. Come back in 15 minutes, and then just I could see it on your face, and you do that with quarterbacks now, and you kind of just. The ego, you put it aside. They all want to cheer on your team, but like deep down, if you see a guy come in there, look at what happening with the Steelers right now. Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, just a whole bunch of drama there. And yeah, I mean, it is. I totally agree. And in Pitt's quarterback situation now, like, so now what I'm hearing a lot of reports are Nate Yarnell,
Yeah.
who showed, again, spurts of, but Christian Veyer, that game versus Louisville, man, he had ice in his veins. He came out, and I was like, this is the guy. And then kind of came back down to reality a little bit. And then you get Eli Holstein from Alabama. I think that he has a real shot to be, your QB1, but it's like, you won't know until the spring game, you won't know until they really, start breaking down. But it's like crazy because the transfer portal, it's so great, but at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword because you don't know. It could be, you've seen what happened with Dracovic, okay? Now, is that going to happen with Eli Holstein? He's coming from Alabama. Why did he leave Alabama? Like, you don't know the whole backstory. Like, I need to know. Like, that's what they should make a job in the NCAA for someone to, like, find, like, what didn't click here?
Right. All the red flags of this prospect.
You know what I mean? Like, they need, like, a NCAA investigator. Maybe they do have one and we don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it's like Pitt's offense, Bub Means, Kenny Johnson, Gavin Bartholomew, a great guy who I know. Yeah, dude, he's like another Lucas Krull who's in the NFL now. Shout out Lucas. That's another thing about Pitt as well is, they might not have as much as success like, bowl games and getting, being ranked. But I will say that they produce NFL talent. Like if you look around, that is one thing that, that I really know that they're prideful about and really pay homage to. Like every Sunday, they always Pitt always posts, and it's crazy. Jordan Whitehead. I mean, everyone thinks of like Aaron Donald, Kenny Pickett. Like there's a lot of guys. DeMar Hamlin. I mean, these guys are like innovators in the game. So it's all great stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's what worries me a little bit for Pitt moving forward. And I want your thoughts on this, Jordan, because you're plugged in.
Yeah.
Pitt's been a developmental program, right? You bring in a guy like Kalijah Cansey, who was underrated out of Miami. You develop him into a first-round pick. We were talking to another person about Boston College and about their NIL. And I think, somewhat similar situations for Pitt and BC. What is your read on NIL at Pitt? Like, is there money to spend, that kind of thing? Because
it's funny.
For Pitt to keep a guy like Jordan Addison, like if you could have kept him, it would have been a game changer.
Yeah. So, okay, and to all my Pitt faithfuls, we were going to see this because I know I'm going to post it in the group. There's like 10,000 people, Pitt fanatics. Shout out to you guys. I love Pitt, but we have to be honest. I think I looked at the recruiting. It was 50th overall. You got, you got a couple 5-star guys, but you got Penn State. You have West Virginia, that are close, and Florida and all the big schools are going to grab up those. But I mean, I literally just looked on this before the podcast. But I'm just at a loss for words at this point. I really am. I wish I could tell you the NIL. So they do have a program here that I see them post all the time. But it's not like, we're talking like probably the biggest sponsor is like $20,000. And, you're looking at like a school like Florida, Clemson, I'm sure it's like $200,000. So I don't want to say like Pitt's like little brother to Penn State, West Virginia. But as far as like the support, I mean, you see the stadium, they want it tarped off. The only big games when Penn State, Notre Dame, Clemson comes, they get a good crowd, but it's like the Clemson guys, I'm sure Eric, well, you're probably in the press box, but I'm sure your friends, they're buying season tickets because it's like $200. It's cheaper than for a single game ticket. You know what I mean? So, but it's the NIL is good. They do have Pitt has a strong support system. It's just unfortunately not as big as some of these schools for them to be competitive. So that's why they always fall like kind of in the middle, and kids see that, especially now where they're going in and saying, look, I have skill on the football field and I know that I can make some dollars now. It's again, it changed the whole dynamic of everything. But yeah, Pitt does have a good support system. It's just not as big as, some of your bigger colleges. And that's just and it kills me to say that.
Well, and that's where the transfer portal can come in and be very beneficial. And I think too, Jordan, like we may be living a little bit in the prism of last year, 3-9, but Pitt won the ACC just 2 years ago. And I think we've got to remember that. And it's someone like Kenny Pickett who you develop. And I'm just hoping that those guys like Kenny Pickett will stay at a place like Pitt that developed them versus getting developed for 3 years and then going somewhere else and taking some cash. That's what I hope for the sport, but
you just never know. That's the risk you take. Like you can plan and someone can look you dead in the face. I mean, I'm sure some of these coaches, Taekwon Underwood, another one, a great coach. I loved him, but of course he's going to get an NFL opportunity. I think Brendan Marion was the wide receivers coach as well there. Like it was, and he went, he moved up in the ranks as well. So it's just, you just never know. And it's like, you could say like, my heart's in this, but if someone comes with you with a blank check and say, hey, you're going to come play football here next year, that's just being, honest and blunt about it.
Yeah.
I think.
And it's tough. I mean, it's just, again, it goes back to that new world that we're in. Pittsburgh's going to transfer into this new world too, because they hired a guy in Cade Bell, as their offensive coordinator. And I want to pick your brain on this because, you talk about Coach Narduzzi and the relationship that you have with him, covering him for those, 4 or 5 years. He's a defensive guy, right? Like he loves defense. He doesn't want that defense put in any type of jeopardy. Well, now you're bringing in a cat who's going to go at breakneck speed. He's going to try to score a bunch of points. And at times, if you don't do that the right way, some 3 and outs, some at disadvantageous positions, can be had for your defense. What do you think about that? And will he be cool with it? Is he going to let that guy kind of do his thing?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I talked before you came on. I was talking to Kelly off air, and this is what I said. So the Cade Bell hiring, Western Carolina, I believe it was, and then they just announced today that J.J. Lester is the new wide receivers coach who was on his staff. I think he was the wide receiver coach, their offense assistant, whatever it was. But anyways, I think that this is one of those things where there's no middle ground. This is either going to be great because you got these young. He's 30 years old. I mean, that makes me feel old. I just turned 34 like 3 days ago. So
happy birthday, bro. Let's go.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but I just think that it's one of those things where you get these smaller guy schools in. I mean, from looking at his stats, I mean, he led every statistic category there. So I think you just let him. I think a fresh face, a new energy. I think that's what he bring when he did his thing. That's the first thing I noticed is his energy, and I think that's kind of what Pitt needs. I think that's what, not to always allude because I cover the Steelers as well. Not to but Pitt and them are similar in a sense that they're kind of just been stuck in their ways. Are you going to continue to just plateau and be where you're at, or are you going to be like, hey, we got to take a risk, we got to shake things up that we normally might not do, which is go and get a young offensive coordinator, let him bring his guys in, build around him. Narduzzi's like, okay, Randy Bates, he got it handled. The defense, I mean, Rashad Battle was another one name that comes to my mind too. Great. Pitt cranks them out, man. They're always competitive on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that Narduzzi, that's something that just getting it done. But we'll see. I mean, it's early. Spring ball isn't here yet. I don't want to be like one of those guys predicting, that Pitt's going to go to the college playoff or something next year. But hey, I mean, their expectations aren't high after a 3-9 season. So it's either going to fall flat on the face, or it's going to be the best thing, and they're going to be like, it's going to create more opportunities for guys from smaller schools to step in that young.
No, I like what you're saying there, Jordan, that are take a risk. And because Pitt has won for so many years with toughness, with defense. Yes. And then when they were really elite was elite quarterback play with Kenny Pickett. But playing a little faster, changing things up, it could be very beneficial. And when you look at 2024, and I know it's early, we're not asking you to predict anything crazy. It's February 19th for crying out loud. But when I look at this schedule, I think it's a relatively tough schedule. Yeah. Having West Virginia, first of all, Cincinnati early on at Cincinnati, West Virginia, you have UNC on there, you have Clemson, you have Louisville. Talk to me about SMU. We just talked to an SMU
Stanford?
guy. No Stanford.
Okay. You got Cal. Okay. You got Cal at home. Okay. So Cal has to travel the country to come hang out.
A classic ACC matchup.
Do you guys like that for the ACC? What are your thoughts on that?
We have been told that we like it, Jordan. So we like it.
Okay,
we like it.
Demographically, I was trying to figure out how that makes sense, but then I look
at it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Let me just hit you with this, Jay. Let me hit you with this. This is crazy. Kelly doesn't even know this yet. I'm saving this for when we do an episode, but I'm going to leak it right here. The farthest distance travel, 4 games, is Cal. They have to travel over 20,000
It's
miles
outrageous.
Wow.
It's
for their away games.
outrageous.
That's number one.
Wow.
The dead last is Clemson, who has to travel 2,500 miles. I mean, it is
Wow.
nuts. It is nuts, the difference that those teams
Yeah, they didn't
out
really
west are going
think
to have
that
to do.
out.
Number one,
It's good,
Cal.
but
Number
they
2,
didn't think
Stanford.
it.
Bizarre.
Mac, I will add, because we talked a little bit to Narduzzi about this when it was a possibility, when it hadn't happened yet. And he said, look, for us, it's okay.
Sure.
It's really going to be an issue for Cal and Stanford because
Yes.
of their travel.
Yes.
When you look at Pitt's schedule, their toughest or farthest road game is SMU.
Yeah.
This year. They got to go
Yeah.
to Dallas, and that's
Yeah.
not bad.
Right.
And then everything else is pretty much what they have done. So it's going to be interesting to see how it affects Cal and Stanford and their recruiting and all that. But
Yeah.
Jordan, I feel like you have a really good take on this. West Virginia at home.
Oh, come on.
September 14th.
Come on.
That game at West Virginia last year,
Yeah.
frankly, and this is a Southern saying for you, Jordan, it was ugly as sin. Okay,
Yeah.
It was hideous.
I know.
That game was hideous, and Pitt had
You
every
should
chance.
usually throw records out of the window
That's
true.
for rivalry games. Well, even though that Penn State, smacked. I
Sure.
hate to say that too, but yeah. I
We
was
don't
at
need to
that
talk
game.
about Penn
Hey,
State.
hey, Jordan,
Yeah.
how do you translate ugly as sin to Yinzer talk?
Yeah.
Yin's ugly. That's about as good as I could get. Yin's it got ugly.
It got
I wish-
ugly,
Yeah,
Yins.
I don't know if they have a specific term for
That's
that.
perfect.
It's more of that. Like, it's funny because I know when I was telling Kelly I go down to Charlotte a lot, and they're like, "Oh, you're a Yankee." I said, "I'm not in New York," but that's what they think. That's why every
That's
time
right.
I'm down there. I'll tell you, everyone is very kind down
Good.
there. I
Good,
would
good.
say
We
that.
like to- we
Very
like to hear
Yeah,
that.
Southern
Yankee means
hospitality.
anybody
Yeah,
north
I
of
know.
above
I
Virginia.
just
certain
never
point.
heard that before, and I was like, "What is that like?" I was like, "Oh, okay, it's all good."
Well, Jordan, can you just tell me how you feel about West Virginia in general? I would just love to hear that.
I think that they
Not
have
the
a
state, just the school.
well. So my wife actually worked in West Virginia, and she will tell you that she is not a fan at all. She used
Okay,
to have
good.
to drive there. She worked for a news thing out there, like a news station for a little bit. So she will tell you that she hates West Virginia. As a Pitt fan, I will tell you that I hate West Virginia. There's beautiful mountains and water,
Mhm.
but the football team is what it is. It's, we had their number in the past, that we had the 13-9 Pat Bostic game.
That's
a
right.
lot of memories. We always like to rub that in their face. I know Pat personally, shout out to Pat, had to get that in there. I know he'll appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, I just, I think that, like I said, you can throw records out of the window. I know they always have a lot of like the game day shows on here because we're so close, and there's a lot of West Virginia, people walking around with the raccoon hats here, or whatever, if that style. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that they'll be that good this year, and I think that Pitt, if there is one game, if Pitt could go 3-9 again, I think that that's a game that Pitt wins.
They
just
want that.
because of what happened last year.
Oh, yeah. They
Yeah.
want to get it
Yeah.
done. They will want to get it done. Well, Jordan, this has been a lot of fun. Before we get you out, last question for you.
Yeah.
How does Pitt turn it around? What do you need to see? Maybe the top 2 or 3 things. Hey, if they do this, you feel better about how they finish 24.
So you have Rodney Hammond Jr. I think you build around him in the running game. You got to figure out who the quarterback is. I think that Eli Holstein is going to come in there. From everything that I've been reading up on him, they're getting a lot of high praise. But I also think after, last year, Christian Bayer, he really came in and said, "Hey, like I'm here as well too. I'm transferred from," and Nate Yarnell's been there. But they got to get that figured out, just like the Steelers do. There's a thing going on in Pittsburgh. I don't know if it's like a sickness.
It's in the water, man. Something's in the
or
water.
What it is, it's in the Allegheny, the Three Rivers over in Pittsburgh. Is they need to figure out, what's going on at quarterback for the professional team and the college team. I think that Pitt can turn it around. I don't see it as, it's too early to really give it, but I would say at least a 3 or 4 game improvement. I would hope. If I was like a bet man, I would say maybe a 3-game improvement, maybe like right under bowl eligibility. I think that this season you really kind of got to figure out, where these new guys, new offensive coordinator, get your offense figured out, have a good, recruiting class again, and just continue to go. I don't think that the expectations are high, but I'll say this for Pat Narduzzi: what is the ceiling after the ACC championship?
Sure.
They won the Sun Bowl, UCLA, Nick Patty. That was great. But and what are bowl games, anymore? When they went to the Peach
That's a
Bowl,
whole
Kenny
nother thing.
Pickett
Yeah.
said, and that sickens me because it's the most wonderful time in the year to sit down on my
I
couch
know.
and just and what are your plans? I'm watching the Alamo Bowl, the Michelin.com. It doesn't matter. There's college football on. Like it could be, Boise State bring out their blue turf like that. That's what I love about college football. It's always on because you have the West Coast game. So from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed, like my plans are set, and there's no better time than bowl games.
I agree.
But yeah, I just want Pitt to really be competitive and show promise. I don't. If I'll leave it on this. And thank you guys for having me as well. It was fun to rekindle the Pitt magic again. Hopefully they can do the same. But I think that them not regressing would be the biggest thing. Trying to find the direction you're going. We're not asking you to win the ACC. We're just asking you to kind of be the middle of the pack and find who your guys are, who you can build around moving forward.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done. The ACC's tough. So we'll see.
Yeah. We added 3 more teams for you, so maybe it's easier to get to the middle. It's easier to, some more people can fall behind you. Jordan, this was awesome.
Crap.
Thank you for your time,
Thank
brother.
you guys.
Really appreciate it. I hope everybody's babies
doing.
stayed asleep.
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Jordan York for joining us. And I love that we did this about 7:30 at night. So all 3 of us had just put our kids to sleep and we were all just watching the monitors, praying that they weren't going to wake up, and they didn't. And so we were able to record this podcast. But Mac, I think as we look ahead for Pittsburgh to 2024, as I mentioned when we were talking with Jordan, I think the schedule is pretty tough. It's not.
Yeah.
Who are the schedules that I loved? Syracuse and North Carolina's schedules were very, very.
You love those. Those are undefeated
nice
teams. 2 undefeated teams.
Yeah, very manageable. But with this schedule, first of all, you have Cincinnati and West Virginia very early on. You draw UNC, you draw Clemson, you draw Louisville, go into SMU, but you don't have to go to California, which I think is a positive for Pittsburgh. But got to bounce back. You've got to prove that you're still that tough, hard-nosed program that can win games in the trenches. And Mac, I just want to get your thoughts really quickly on Charlie Partridge moving on. I know that's your guy. You've had good conversations with him when you're up there. He's been a staple for Pittsburgh. I don't love that for Pitt.
Yeah, it was brutal because I truly thought that he was one of the best in the country at what he did and kind of thought there was some momentum building. Okay, he's going to start getting, some 4-stars, some transfer guys. Look out. Who knows what this guy's going to be able to develop in the men and the players and things of that nature. But it's just kind of an indicator of where we are, KG, and college football. We've got to do something.
It, man.
We got to do something, at the end of the day. And I think the biggest thing that everybody wants is just to play by the same rules and for there to be accountability. Like that's all we're asking for. It doesn't seem like crazy to me.
Some sort of regulation on this craziness that we're dealing with.
And either it is a regulation or it's no regulations. Like it's just one or the other. We just need to pick and not all just have different things per school, per state and how they're being operated, because it's just not fair. There's different advantages for different people, and it's unfortunate. So we're going to start losing these quality coaches. And at the end of the day, college football will be fine. There's other people that are biting at the bit to get here, to get to this thing, and I'm sure they'll be great coaches. But we're going to lose some greats along the way, I think, and we've already kind of seen that. So especially in the ACC here, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah,
What also is going to be interesting, KG. Go ahead.
That was one I was really bummed to see because I thought.
Me too. Yeah, he's great.
And we talk about this with Jordan. Like one of the pillars of Pitt is developing players.
Yes.
And especially those D linemen.
Yeah.
Kalijah Cansey, who we had on our show, who's, was a great interview, but also was a guy who wasn't that highly recruited and was developed into a first-round pick.
Right.
And so I just hope Pitt can still do that because, as Jordan was talking about, I mean, this is not a program that's going to bring in 5 stars, but the portal does help you. You can go get some guys who maybe were higher rated, but then didn't work out where they were. But the developmental piece is one of the best parts of college sports.
Yes.
And college football. Yeah. And I hope we're not losing that. That's just my little soapbox for the day.
I agree. And it will be interesting, especially as we move on and change, and who knows what, realignment from across the board is about to look like.
What are you trying to say, Mac? You got inside info?
I don't know. Just look at Twitter. You'll see it there. You'll see it there. Or X. Is it X or Twitter? Who knows? If you type in Twitter, it will take you to X. So I don't know what
I
it's
still
called.
think it's Twitter. That's what I call it. But
It's Twitter.
I'm an old lady.
A shout out to Hasselbeck. Where I'm from, it's called Twitter. All right, so that's
Twitter.
what we do. That's what we do. Anyway, what I was trying to say, what's going to be interesting next week is we are going into uncharted territory, guys. Okay, first we're packing the bags. We're going to KG's home country or home state, however you look at it, in Texas to hang out with SMU and the boys. So excited for that on Monday, and then Wednesday we're going to California, baby, with the Eagles. Let's go.
Wow.
We're going out there.
We have a busy week, Mac.
We have a busy week. I hope that Jacob and Amelia are good with road trips because we're going. We're making it happen with Cal and Stanford. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys coming on this journey with us, and we continue to need your support. Go over to YouTube, subscribe, leave some comments. Always love seeing those. Look at that Miami episode. People are excited. They're jacked up. They're getting going with it. And, of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe there, review, rate, all those different things. We greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.